All right. I'm here with my friend Jonathan Glueckert from the University of Florida, and I'm going to ask him a few questions about his job. All right. So tell me your position or what you're doing in school right now.
Okay, yes. So I'm currently, right now, I'm a master's student. I'm trying to get a master's degree in agronomy. And before that, I was a biologist doing the same thing, working on invasive plants.
Okay. What's agronomy?
So agronomy is actually basically like the study of crop production.
Okay.
The reason I don't actually study crop production, but I do study invasive plants in natural areas. We're kind of lumped into the same category as that. So agronomists will study weeds or invasive plants in crop systems, but I study them in natural areas.
Okay. Okay. Got it. And why did you choose this field?
I guess it was natural to say. I love to be outside always. I love going on hikes, looking at plants ever since I was younger. So I figured any job that I had was going to have a little bit outside. I couldn't sit at a desk too much.
Sure. Oh, I can
Yeah,
relate to that.
yeah.
What does your day to day look like?
So it depends on what kind of day it is, especially here in South Florida. If it's too hot or if it's rainy, I do go to the office, but most of the time I'm outside collecting data, setting up new experiments on plants. A lot of the time right now I'm out in the Everglades and I'm working on plants in the Everglades, so that's a nice fun aspect. But days that I'm not out in the Everglades, I could be on a cattle ranch somewhere in Okeechobee, or I could be in a natural area throughout South Florida setting up experiments or studying plants. And then after those days, after we collect data, I have to have a few office days to enter that in and analyze data and things like that.
Okay. And what are you doing in the Everglades? What kind of experiments and research are you doing?
Yeah, so in the Everglades, there's an invasive plant from Asia, and it's called Old World climbing fern. So it's not supposed to be here, but it was brought here in the 1950s, and since then, it's kind of established itself as a really dominant plant in the Everglades, and it's starting to take over some of the native species that we have. So my job is to try to figure out new techniques and technologies to try to manage that plant.
Okay. Okay. Why was it brought here?
So it's very nice looking plant, and people really love the way it looks, and it grows up. It grows up columns and pillars, and it looks nice like ivy.
Okay.
So people tried to plant it, and it is very good at reproducing, and it managed to escape being an ornamental plant and find its way into the natural areas and in the Everglades. And ever since then, we've been trying to figure out how to undo that.
Okay. Okay. It sounds like a bear.
Yeah.
What are the positive impacts that your job has?
So, the obvious impacts are that we're trying to restore the native Everglades to the way they were or to the way they're supposed to be, and try to minimize the impact of that plant on the native plants that are already out there, but also the wildlife that's out there. Nesting birds like great blue herons and wood storks and roseate spoonbills, they all rely on these habitats out in the Everglades to build nests and to raise their young. And this plant climbs all the way up into the canopies of the trees where those birds would be nesting, and they can't build nests. So on one side, I'm trying to restore the habitat for the way it is, just to try to get the Everglades back to the way it was, and for the wildlife. And on the other hand, there's a lot of people that are working on this plant every day out in the Everglades. So they have to go out there and they have to cut the plant down and they have to remove it. So I like to think that a big part of my job is finding techniques and treatments that we can do out there that makes it easier for them to do their job as well.
Okay. Oh, yeah. And also, providing employment opportunities too.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
for
Right.
sure. Yep,
And making their jobs a little easier. Yeah, that's wonderful.
yep.
Okay. Um, would you choose the same career if you, or the same career path, I know you're still in school, if you had to do it over again?
Yeah, I would. So I was just speaking about those guys that are out there every day trying to get remove plants by hand, and that was kind of the path that I took as well. After I graduated from my bachelor's degree, undergraduate, I decided to take quite a few jobs that were around 3 to 6 months, and there are plenty of jobs throughout the states that offer that seasonal jobs that you can go work in the summer in a new area, and it allowed me to see a lot of parts of the country and
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to see different landscapes, learn different plants. So I really like the path that I took to get to where I am now. But if you want to kind of get over doing small 3 to 6 jobs every 3 to 6 month jobs and having to move all the time, you kind of have to go a little bit further in the education. So that's why I'm currently getting a master's degree.
I see.
But
Okay.
but that path allowed me to see a lot of amazing places and learn a lot.
Right, right. So you wouldn't necessarily choose that as your career per se, obviously, because you've gone back to school. But it was an
Well,
interesting experience.
yeah, it'll be like the same career. I just won't have to move every 3 to 6 months.
Okay,
So instead of having those short seasonal jobs, you'll be in a more permanent management position.
I see.
Um, but those short-term jobs really help you build the foundation of what this field is all about. So
Sure.
you can take that, move it on, a little further in education, and then have a management type degree.
What was it that enabled you to travel like that? What was the job that you had?
So I had quite a few different seasonal positions with the U.S. Forest Service,
Okay.
with fish and game departments in Idaho, different universities around the country as well. Most of it was in Idaho, but it was in Arizona, California as well. And those agencies are always hiring for seasonal positions
Okay.
like invasive plant management or biological science technician.
I see.
So I took a few of those jobs out in Idaho. I wanted to see some different habitats, and I moved around
Yeah.
getting those jobs, and led me to where I am now. And I've
Oh,
been in Florida for now almost 4 years working on the exact same plant. So
okay. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So you know probably pretty much everything there is to know about old world climbing fern. Is that accurate to say?
Well, I don't think anybody knows everything there is to know. So that's why I have a job right now. Anytime we find something out, or think that we've, found something important out, we have 10 more questions that we now
Ah,
have. So
okay. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's never ending.
Yeah. Um, well, yeah. Yeah. And what do you think the future holds for careers in your field or your area of expertise?
Well, I think it's a good time. It's an interesting time to be in invasive plant management. For one, we have a lot of changes in climates in states, so plants will be moving around.
Right.
Um, I mean, old world climbing fern right now, the plant I work on is kind of restricted to South Florida. It's a little
Right.
bit spotty up in North Florida, but as it warms up, those plants will start moving around. So we don't really know, with all the invasive plants that we have in the United States or even in the world, where they're going to wind up.
Right.
So we may always see new plants to work on
Right.
in Florida or elsewhere.
Right.
Another thing that's interesting is that we're always, especially right now, we're always being challenged to find new ways to work on these plants. So we have to think out of the box.
Right.
Right now, there's a lot of focus on mechanical harvesting of aquatic plants in the Kissimmee chain of lakes, like Toho
Right.
and whatnot. So I've gotten to work on a bit of that as well, and that's a new way of thinking. And on
Right.
top of that, a huge part of my degree, I'm actually also getting a certificate in using drones in order to
Uh,
um, in order to find invasive plants, and in order to make a map of them, and in order to treat them.
right.
So as new technologies come out, we're always looking for different ways we can use them to help us make our jobs more efficient with invasive plants. So it's to think of invasive plant management as you're just going out there and you're removing plants is a little bit, you're kind of putting it in a box.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways that you can tackle invasive plant management, and anybody can bring their own expertise in it and try to think out of the box
Right.
with new tools and techniques.
Right.
And that's probably my favorite part of the degree that I'm doing right now is I get to use drones all the time. I get to fly drones for my job. That's excellent.
That is really cool. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's super cool. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so to do what you're doing, what kind of degree does a person need?
Yeah. So I'd say at a minimum right now to get into like a science technician position, people
Uh-huh.
are looking for a bachelor's degree in some sort of natural science field, something like environmental science, which is
Yep.
what I did as my
Okay.
undergrad, even biology,
Mhm.
any kind of natural resource degree. Above all else, what I found though is that you have to be willing to work hard in some difficult environments. So adapting to field work
Right.
in tough, challenging environments probably outweighs all of the education you can get.
Interesting.
Um, but but in order to start, you kind of have that bachelor's degree with environmental science. I know that the Forest Service does offer opportunities for positions like in wildfire, where you actually don't need a bachelor's degree, but it does help. And
Sure.
then if you want to move past that kind of the field technician aspect, where you're going out in the field and doing all of the work every day, if you want to move a little bit beyond that and become a manager or become a coordinator,
Mhm.
then that's why I'm getting the master's now, because
I see.
that's what I've figured out that I need.
Right. So you want some level of field work, but you don't want your whole job to be out in the field.
Absolutely, yeah, especially in the summer in South Florida.
Oh my God.
It's nice to have it's nice to be able to get out of the office and do work outside whenever you want. I mean, I get to drive an airboat in the Everglades, so I want to spend most of my time doing that, but
Yeah.
there are some days when it gets a little tiring and you need to get into the office.
Sure.
So I like to have a good balance of field and
Right.
office work.
Right. Right. And you think that the degree you're getting now will give you that flexibility that you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. If I probably didn't go and do a master's degree, it would be all field work. You know,
Okay.
you're out there every day, you're out there collecting the data, and it's great when you're younger and you just really want to get out there and
Right.
experience nature and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, but once you start wanting to move up a little bit,
Yeah.
that's what the master's degree enables you to do.
Sure. Sure. I can see
Yep.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that any other recommendations or advice that you might give to budding naturalists who might like to have a career in invasive plant management?
Yeah, I mean, don't wait until you go to get your degree, or don't wait now. You can go hiking every day and learn new things. That's what I tried to do when I was younger. I would get out with my dad, bring some guidebooks,
Yeah.
and try to identify plants if you're interested in that, or birds if you're interested in that.
Right.
And by the time you're ready and you go and get your degree, you'll have all that knowledge already.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I
Yeah,
grew up with similar stories for sure. Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about invasive plant management with us. We appreciate it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
no problem.
yeah.
I'd get out in the Everglades now, but it's raining, so
Oh, it
maybe
is.
tomorrow.
Oh,
It's
hopefully
nice where
tomorrow.
you are, though.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.